Good morning, everyone. This is Abundance Book Club Live. Today, we are talking about setting yourself up for success when transitioning into working for yourself. And I'm with Donna Cornelius. Donna, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
So excited about this conversation because I know that we have both been there at one point in our lives and have heard so many conversations about this. I think it's going to be a topic that's really going to serve a lot of people. So I'm excited to talk about that. Before we do, everyone watching, click their subscribe button. We have these amazing conversations Monday through Friday and are for the purpose of serving all of our growth in the areas of money, time freedom, life freedom, working for yourself, or just creating a life that allows you to live in abundance. So thank you all for watching. Hit subscribe. And Donna, let's jump in.
Absolutely.
So we are reading, such a good topic, isn't it? Creating Money, Attracting Abundance is the book that we're reading this month, and we're finishing that up this week and starting a new book for next month. But where we're at in the book, for those of you that have the book, if you don't have the book, highly recommend it. It has such great information all throughout, and we're just touching on some of the things. This is from page 193. You do not necessarily need to quit the job you have to get your work or ideas out into the world. Stay where you are while you begin to take action on your new ideas. Let them have time to germinate and grow at their own speed. I know you've probably heard a lot of people, Donna, in this conversation of, well, do I quit my job and start my business and go after what I want so I'll have more time to create it? And what I love so much that they're talking about here is really allowing a person to start gaining traction while still having the stability of the job. And one of the things that, Shanda Sumter, who we both have been in community with for quite some time, says is that our job is what funds the venture when we start it. And so really allowing ourselves to have that space to fund it and get it going. And what comes up for me that I also love about this is it gives us time to test it. There's so much testing in marketing and in the entrepreneur world in general, that finding out what's going to work and what people want and how to deliver it in a way that is going to make the biggest difference. There's a lot of testing that's involved, and the book talks about giving it time. So time is the big thing there.
Yeah. And I think what comes up for me, so time is definitely one of those things. And as I think of how I've transitioned in the last year, started 3 years ago, but the other thing that I would suggest is don't have that expectation that if you build it, they will come. Because to your point, there gets to be practice, there gets to be testing, there gets to be all these parts of the businesses. And you get to have really clear, because what I thought I was going to be stepping into based on what I heard, my calling was 3 years ago, was not where I am now. It's a part of it, but it's actually not what I'm doing. I do it more as, so I thought I was stepping into, teaching and speaking and, all of those things. And I am. That isn't necessarily my revenue source. What I am doing is because I kept conflicting. So this is the great part about this book is take your time to really think about what it's going to look like. If you have the expectation that you're going to work full time and jump into your own business full time, I'm just going to squash that one right now, because it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And you're going to end up burnt out. So take the time to really know what it is that you want to do. Find the thing that resonates with you. Because, I kept this thing in the back of my head kept saying, but you've got 35 plus years in business. And I knew that regardless of my calling, God did not give me all of that wisdom and all of that knowledge not to share it with people. And he's actually brought a way for me to take both those practical principles of supporting, and it doesn't even mean entrepreneurs. It could be people, women, female executives, because I'm more particular to women, but it gave me the ability and the time to say, okay, this is what I truly am creating. Because the entire time there was there's a resistance. I had another business coach and she's like, you get to do this. And I'm like, there was something hanging on the backside that was not it wasn't gelling. And so by taking the time and then having an opportunity that actually opened up and inviting counsel in, I asked Tabitha, I asked our group that we were in, I'm like, what's my zone of genius? When you look at me, what is my zone of genius? And so one of the people came back and, a lot of the things were similar. And one of them phrased it in a way that said, Whitney, our friend Whitney, said, you're a fractional CEO, which is really, that's the vision. I help people create the vision for the business and then help them build it. And I would have not known how to phrase that, but I took the counsel of those around me, those that knew me, and then applied that. So take time in creating what really, really resonates with you, because then it was easier for me to take, okay, this was my calling. This is what I'm experienced in and what I know. And now I've been able to bring both of them together in a very beautiful way to really be fruitful. And when you get to that right point, here's the other key. When you have an absolute peace about it, then you know this is where you're supposed to be. And it is in that knowing, I was literally speaking about the word gnosis, which is Greek for knowing, knowledge. When you know that this is where you are supposed to be, this is your purpose, this is your calling, you will have an absolute peace and you will know that it's right. But take the time to really, do a brain dump, ask people around you and invite people into what you want to create that really knows, and ask them, what is my zone of genius? What is the one thing that I am so good at? And then you can start building that path of knowing where it is that you're going with the career that you want to create. Because, honestly, what I've attempted to try for the last few years, it was never the right thing. There was always if there's a resistance and there's a push and it's hard, it's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing that too, that the peace, that clarity, that peace, that knowing sets in. And when it does, we know we're on our path. And it's okay, all the things prior to that, all the things that felt like resistance guided you eventually to what you are creating, what you are up to now. And if you had just jumped all into what felt like resistance, it wouldn't have flown. It wouldn't have been as easy. The transition to where you eventually got to would have been a lot more challenging. But it's when we allow ourselves to notice the resistance, take the steps anyway, learn what there is there to learn, glean, like you said, from those around us that are on similar paths and that know us well. Gathering that information allowed you didn't just send it out to one person, hoping that they, had a solution. You really put it out there to get lots of feedback and allow yourselves to hear what you knew to be right for you, what you knew was a good fit for you.
Yeah. And I think that was key, because I was listening to people the whole way along. And yet, you have that gut, you have that inner knowing that's going to say, yes, this is the right thing. And could I have been successful at those other things? Yes. And it really wasn't like, find the thing that lights you up, find that thing that doesn't seem like work, that brings you joy every day, even though it's still going to be difficult some days. Today I'm writing business plan. I didn't have the focus to do it yesterday, so today I'm doing it. I don't love writing business plans, and yet I know how to structure them because it gets us to that level. But even though it's not maybe my favorite thing to do, I've also learned to, call in support and when I need support, and get help when I need to get help. And so, yeah, especially if you're stepping into entrepreneurship, which can sometimes be a very lonely place, surround yourself with people that will feed into you. And I had my own business for 14 years, and I would call other entrepreneurs and I'm like, hey, can you brainstorm with me for a few minutes? But pull your circle of people together and then really lean in to, who you are, and then figure out what you're called to do, because that's going to lead you to a place that is really going to give you the joy and the peace. And I will always come back to joy and peace. When you have joy, when you have peace, then life is like, okay, yeah, this is easy to do.
Yeah. And I love too that, it's really an opportunity to see into the path of entrepreneurship because, a lot of us, when we start, I think there's a lot of coaches and people who want to show the big, shiny end result and say, let's go, jump in and you can create this now. And I think there's a marketing reason for doing that. And yes, of course, the end goal is where we're all, why we all jump in, but it's the timing, like really like allowing ourselves to have the time and noticing that as we speak to others, as we share our journeys, realizing that it's not a linear path. It does take time. It does take navigating, and to expect to start something and to hit the ground running and have it all figured out and get the results right away is extremely rare. And even the people that do that have some sort of background that, we don't know that created those results.
Yeah, so true. So true. How many times have we seen that play out? And here's the other thing. If you don't, like, I would always invite people, I'm a writer, so everything gets to be a plan. But write it down. I was just talking with somebody, a friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur, and she has an agency, and she's like, and she just stepped into being one of the owners of a leadership training center, and so there's so much. And when you step into entrepreneurship, it's like there's so much, and there can be. And I said to her, what if you just did a brain down? She's like, I am literally doing that right now. She's like, I'm putting it down, because there's a verse in Habakkuk 2 that says, write it down plainly so that you may run with it. I always reference that verse because when we take it from here to a piece of paper, then it's like we can see clearly. And I invite entrepreneurs to do this too, as the ones that I've mentored. Like, write down the things that you love, write down the things that you don't like to do, and write down the things that are absolutely never going to do that again. I did not enjoy any part of that. And then when you make that list, then you go back and it's like, okay, where's my zone of genius? Where's my zone of competence? Oh, the light must have just come out in the back behind me. I just went away. But what's my zone of genius? What's my zone of competence? I can do this, but is this really like what I excel at? What's my zone of incompetence? Or it's zone of genius, zone of excellence, zone of competence, and zone of incompetence. Those incompetent things, just stay away from. Eventually, you're going to hire somebody to do that in your business. But when you want to get clarity on where the direction you're going as you transition, having that path, even if you start very simple, allows you to step into it. And then you move to the next thing, and then you move to the next thing. I had a wonderful mentor one time, and she's like, Donna, just do the next thing. And for me, it was phase right after a really traumatic experience, but I've used those words of wisdom because if I just work on the next thing, then all of the things don't seem so big and overwhelming, because don't think you have to have it all together if you're stepping into business either.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we are going to jump to page 200. Still on the same topic, setting yourself up for success. So if you're interested in going into business for yourself, think about all the reasons why you will succeed. Start with your personality, skills, and motivation. Believe in yourself. So we are always collecting evidence. The reason I love this so much is because we're always collecting evidence. We're either collecting evidence of what's not working or why we won't succeed or why things aren't working out, or we're collecting evidence of why we will succeed and how things are working out. Now, obviously, we want to pause and look at what's not working so that we can make sure that we're shifting things to move in a direction that are working, so there's value in that. But when we stay in those thoughts and use them to beat ourselves up, make ourselves wrong, tell ourselves why we shouldn't, then we're not using those tools for the purpose of moving us forward. So collecting evidence on all of the reasons why we will succeed to move ourselves forward has such power. So I love that they bring that forward in the book.
Yeah. And as you read that, I was just like, going back to the being, like, if you know who you are, I said to a group of executive women one day, I said, tell me who you are. And they all started telling me what they did. And I said, oh, I don't want to know your do. I want to know your who. And so when you come from that place of leading with who you are, then it's easier, because that's where your confidence, that's where your belief is. Your belief isn't, oh, can I do this one thing? Because if you think that it's too big and it's too hard, it's going to be, to your point, you're going to collect the evidence that it's too big and it's too hard. But if you take that step back and say, okay, I am confident, I am intelligent, I know this, I am this, and you go through all the things, you actually move the limiting beliefs out of the way. And it's like, okay, I can do this. I am strong. I am not fearful. So when you say who you are, which we set that intention, I literally set that intention every single day of my life, has not changed. We were taught it in leadership, has not changed. Every morning, this is what I'm creating, and this is who it takes me to be to create that. When I step into that, it's like, okay, I can do this. And so it's really about the being that gets rid of the limiting beliefs. And the other thing that comes up is, we have these what ifs. And when you have that what if, I was listening to a short clip by Mel Robbins the other day, and she said, people say what if, but the what if is always followed by the negative. What if this doesn't work out? What if somebody doesn't buy my services? What if, instead of saying, what if I sell, $10,000 today? What if, again, it comes back to your beliefs are tied to your being. And there's I have one of my quotes up here. I have sticky notes with all these quotes up here on my desk as my reminders. But it says, you've got a world full of people who don't believe in you. Don't be one of them. And when you believe in yourself, when you believe and know, again, going back to your zone of genius, when you know who you are and what you're capable of, then you can step through, and those limiting beliefs move to the side, and it allows you to step in with clarity. Because when you be something, then what you do is followed with that, and you will receive what you want to receive in life. Set the intention, choose who you're going to be to create that intention. And I shared, Tabitha and I were talking with a group of women last night. My daughter owns a business, and she set an intention of reaching a certain goal. She owns a spa, of certain sales on Black Friday, and they actually exceeded last year's by $55,000. I think she did. I think at the end of the day, it was like $137,000 in sales for the day, which for a small business is really, really good. Does that happen every day? No. But she does, she knows who she is, and she knows what it takes for her to create what it is that she wants to create. She doesn't buy the BS of what comes up here sometimes, and the doubt and the disbelief. She just steps into it. And I will tell you, when I started Link, everything was a brand new. When you start a business, every day is a new day. It's like, oh my gosh, I've never done this before. And I let that become fear for a year and a half, to the point that it was crippling me, and it was also affecting my health. And so my invitation is, don't listen to any of that. Don't compare yourself to the people around you with other people doing the same thing, because you are unique. You are going to do it in a way that nobody else will do it. And when you know that you're gifted to deliver a service or create a product, that is what you get to believe in. And when you believe in that, and then nothing else matters, because you can focus on, I am able to do this. I am strong. I am capable. I am. Love those I am statements. Create an entire list of your I ams.
Absolutely. And, as entrepreneurs, we get really comfortable with not knowing, being comfortable with not knowing, but knowing that we're resourceful and that the resources are always available to us.
Absolutely.
Navigating.
I'm doing something in an industry I've never been in before. It's like, okay, but I know the foundation of the pieces to build a business, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know hydrogen. I can, I don't need to know that. We've got engineers and other, people to know those things. So
yes. Yeah. having the right people around us, surrounding ourselves with people that are supportive, that either are doing their role in the business or the people in our lives that are resources, that are the people that we reach out to and say, hey, what do you see as my gifts, my zone of genius, like you talked about earlier. So absolutely.
Yeah.
So since we don't know the path as it unfolds before us and we walk it and we are resourceful, these are a lot of tools that are massively supportive. So thank you, Donna, for having this conversation with me today. Thank you for everyone who is watching, and subscribe. Come hang out with us any Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern time as we are live, or enjoy the recordings as they work for you. We're going to say goodbye to YouTube for today.